There is a very interesting series, or maybe it's a movie, that talks about numbers. It says that everything can be included, or everything can be broken down into numbers. And in the podcast, we started a very new series where we are discussing the aspect of numbers in life, the importance of having personal numbers. And we say that top performers in sports and even in business, they do numbers. They use numbers on a daily basis to track their performance. They use numbers to know their progress. They use numbers to have warnings. They use numbers to know how far they must go. In other words, numbers communicate. Numbers tell stories. And the stories that we get from the numbers help us to know what to do. Help us to know how we are doing, how far we are doing, how far we've come, how far we've got to go. Numbers are important. The question that we're answering today is, do you have your numbers? What are your numbers? What are your statistics? Stay tuned.
Welcome to the Life Signatures podcast with Lawrence Namale. Lawrence is a life coach, author, and keynote speaker who loves to tackle different topics on purpose, productivity, and resilience. His mission in life is to awaken all your boundless possibilities available in you. Life Signatures podcast is dedicated to bring to reality every single person who knows that deep down in their gut, there's got to be more to life than this. And now, here is your host, Lawrence Namale.
Think with me for a minute. What do you think will happen if sports people stopped tracking their numbers? What do you think will happen if businesses, CEOs, business developers stopped tracking their numbers? What would happen if countries stopped tracking their numbers? What would happen if we stopped using statistics? We see that big organizations, even small organizations, we see that sports people and sports teams, sports personalities, we see that businesses, they use statistics. They track their numbers. They know their numbers. They know the aspects of numbers to measure. But at the end of the day, the question that we need to ask ourselves is this: how about individual statistics? If someone stopped you on the streets today and asked you a question, Lawrence, what are your numbers? And I know that's just a question from out of the blue. What are your numbers? You know, when they ask business developer, what are your numbers? The developer will talk about the numbers in terms of revenue, in terms of clientele base, in terms of income that has come in terms of all these prospects that are there. Those are numbers. Because he is smack in the middle of it and he's tracking it to find out the targets that had been set and the progress that is being made towards those targets and so on and so forth. If you asked that business developer about statistics, they will tell you the answer. But if I asked a random human being, an individual, about their numbers, what are they going to tell you? If you stop Eliud Kipchoge today on the streets and you asked him, so what is your number? He's going to tell you about his personal best. He's going to tell you about his marathon at, less than 2 hours. Those are his statistics, and they are measuring his performance. There is absolutely no way that we're going to be productive in life, and I'm talking at individual levels. There is absolutely no way that we're going to be productive if we don't have statistics. If someone is on medical conditions and medical terms and maybe in hospital and so on, and you ask them, what are the numbers? You ask the doctor, what are the numbers? They will tell you the numbers about the blood pressure, HP. They will tell you numbers about the performance of the blood, hemoglobin, whatever it is. They're going to tell you. Numbers gauge very many things. By the way, if you did not want numbers, That's where death is found. I mean, why should we care about numbers when there is no life? There is no life, so why should we care about numbers? But you are alive as an individual. You are alive as a human being today. You are alive wherever place it is that you are. You are listening to me because you're alive, and you've got to have some numbers. What are your numbers? Right now, even as you're listening to me, you're scratching your head and you're asking, and I'm asking, what are your numbers? What's going to be your answer? You see, I'm going to give us a few things here that we can take a look at in our lives where numbers matter the most. And I'm going to start with an arena that is touching nearly every human being alive, and that is the arena of finances. Let me tell you, one of the things about finances, in fact, finances are already in numbers. But if you do not have statistics about your financial realm, if you didn't have statistics about your financial sector, your financial department, chances are that things are going to go haywire in that department. Chances are that you will not even know how you're doing. Chances are that you not even progress. People normally think that it's all about the muscle, how much you get. No. It is how your statistics are faring on. If you have these statistics in focus, your financial statistics, if you have them in focus, they help you to know what you're supposed to do with your life, and so on and so forth. That is how it is. So finances, if you talk to a financial planner, for example, a financial consultant, a personal financial consultant, they are going to give you areas in finances, personal finances, that you need to have in perspective, that you needed to track. For example, I'm just going to give you a very few examples here. The first thing that you need to track on a daily basis, because this one happens on a daily basis. What are your numbers in terms of expenditure? A friend of mine was telling me the other day that they were shocked. For some time, they started putting down and tracking how much money they spent. And they were shocked that there is a huge amount of money that passes through their hands if you colossally put it together in a month. You see, in a day, is something minute. Maybe a sweet here, soda there, tea there, coffee there, chips here, sausage there, and so on. And big deal. Put it together. They were absolutely shocked at the amount of money that passes through their hands, and at the end of the day, there is nothing to show of it. Why? Because they did not know their numbers in terms of expenses. They were not tracking their statistics in terms of expenses. And we live in such a day and in an age where it is very absolutely easy to track your expenses. You have very many free apps on the Google Play Store, the Apple whatever store, that you can just put on your phone and you can track your numbers. Every time you buy tea, you put it there. I bought tea $1, I bought tea 10,000 Uganda shillings, so I bought tea 500 Kenya shillings, and you put it in there. And at the end of the day, guess what? You're going to get statistics of your expenses, complete with a graph, complete with a pie chart, telling you that in terms of eating out, this is how much you've spent this month. This is how much you've spent in this year. In terms of personal development, this is how much you've spent. Maybe zero. In terms of helping people, giving, this is how much you've spent. Those are statistics. And we live in a day and age where people living and they have absolutely no inclination of their statistics. A friend of mine was just telling me today that the informal sector, people do not track their statistics. They're just doing business. They don't know how much profit they're making. But you see, if you're going to be someone who is productive, someone who develops in your life, and if you're going to be someone who wants health in their finances, guess what you're going to do? You are going to have statistics tracked on your finances. And we've just looked at one thing, which is expenses. And the second thing under finances that you can look at is savings. How much money are you putting away on a daily basis? How much money are you putting away on a monthly basis? How much? What are your numbers in terms of savings at the end of the year? What are your numbers in terms of savings at the end of the month? I mean, every kind of income. You see, when you have that kind of statistics, it informs your actions. Numbers tell a story, and when the numbers tell a story, they give us an opportunity to alter the narrative. For example, if you always tracking your income, you will know that there is a bit of that income that is supposed to be saved. And you have different types of income that are coming into your life. And by the way, another kind of statistic that you need to track is the levels of income in terms of streams of income. How many streams of income do you have? And how much is each stream of income bringing at the end of every month and then of every year? How much? If you do not know that, chances are that your health in terms of finances is not going to be there. And when I talk about savings, I'm also going to talk about investments. How many, if we talk about your financial portfolio, which means your savings, your investments, your bonds, your treasury bills, your stocks, your assets, what are the numbers there? You see, when you start asking yourself that kind of a question, it forces you to change the narrative. Like I said, numbers speak. 0 speaks big time. 1 speaks big time. When you have zeros all over the place, you will be forced, you will be compelled to do something about that, to change the narrative, to change your story for the future. Someone asks you, what are your numbers in terms of reserve account? You have absolutely no clue what a reserve account is. You see, a reserve account is created this way. You document how many expenses you have, how much expenses you have for a month. You multiply that by 6 to have a 6-month reserve account saved and funded, put aside somewhere. If it's not there, guess what? It becomes an opportunity for you to start saving and putting the money away, because the statistics are telling you something. And this one goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on. My point is simply this, that we have sports people tracking their numbers. We have business people tracking their numbers. We have government people tracking their numbers. We have every top-notch performer in every niche in life tracking their numbers. We even have God tracking his numbers. The Bible says that God counts the hairs, the number of hairs on our heads. He knows. He has statistics. If you are going to be successful as an individual, you need to have statistics. And the first kind of statistic that I've talked about today that you need to put aside is what? Your financial numbers. What is the story in there? What are the statistics in regard to your finances? Think about that. Start putting it together. And the more you think about your numbers, the more you track your numbers, the more you follow your numbers, the more you focus on those numbers, the healthier it becomes. The more you gaze at something, the more attention you give at something, the more you are inclined to make it better. But how are you going to give attention to your finances if you don't have statistics for them, if you don't have the numbers for them? So start today. Find a way of starting to track your expenses, starting to track your reserve accounts, starting to track your streams of income. If you don't have streams of income, then the number is 0 over there. Then why don't you change that number to 2 or to 3? The numbers are so powerful. It's a very powerful thing. Anyway, that's what I had to share for today in terms of the numbers in your life. Think about that on a serious note. And tomorrow we're going to share something else. Until then, bye-bye. A special shout out to my mentor Jeffrey Howard of Visionary Business University, found at mastermindmentor.com, who has graciously provided me with the soundtrack and the introductory track to this podcast. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you for listening to Life Signatures Radio. If you enjoyed today's show, subscribe to Life Signatures Radio on iTunes, Stitcher, or visit our website at lifesignatures.libsyn.com. Life Signatures Radio, fresh, clean, and inspiring.